The shelter staff encourages a stray dog to meet a stranger, but the dog's lack of reaction initially saddens the woman. However, when the dog finally recognizes her, tears filled his eyes, and everyone witnessing the reunion can't help but be moved to tears as well. Katrina's gaze fixed on the skeletal form of a big dog with eerily familiar blue eyes in the dim shelter light. Time seemed to stand still. Could it truly be Lord, the dog she once knew, standing before her? The dog's fur was patchy, his body gaunt, ribs protruding, and his skin marked with scabs where hair once grew. If this was Lord, he appeared to echo his former self. Katrina hoped for a spark of recognition in those deep blue eyes, but found none. Lord's gaze remained distant, devoid of memory. A sinking feeling overcame Katrina. "It'll be some time before he bounces back," the shelter vet explained. "He's heavily sedated right now. His poor pup has endured quite a journey." As Katrina beheld the emaciated form before her, a whirlwind of emotions swept through her. Joy mingled with uncertainty as she questioned whether this creature was indeed her beloved Lord. Could this be the dog she had held as a playful puppy, her faithful companion through life's highs and lows? Tears welled in her eyes from the prospect of reuniting and the fear that their once unbreakable bond might be lost to time and hardship. Her hand trembled as she reached out, silently pleading for any sign of recognition from the dog's familiar eyes. At that moment, the weight of years spent searching and clinging to hope pressed heavily upon her weary soul. Was this long-awaited reunion the culmination of her relentless quest or another cruel twist of fate? The answer hung between hope and despair as Katrina prepared for the uncertain journey of reunion and redemption. A young Katrina radiated joy as she cradled a small blue-eyed puppy named Lord. He quickly transcended the role of a pet, becoming her soulmate with boundless energy and a penetrating gaze. Their days were filled with laughter, their nights with companionship and contented sighs. Lord's excited barks woke Katrina each morning, and his calm breath lulled her to sleep each night. They were inseparable, facing the world together with unspoken understanding and love. After losing her husband a year prior, Katrina found solace in Lord's companionship. However, their harmony shattered one autumn day in 2017. Returning home to an unnervingly quiet backyard, Katrina discovered the gate ajar and Lord missing. Panic gripped her heart as she called out for him, longing for the familiar sound of his paw, but only silence greeted her. Days turned into weeks, then months, as Katrina's search for Lord grew increasingly desperate. There was no sign of him despite posting flyers on every street corner and sharing pleas across social media. Her home felt empty, every corner echoing his absence, intensifying her loneliness. As hope dwindled, Katrina was consumed by a heartbreak that seemed never-ending. The void left by Lord was more than just a missing presence. It felt like a piece of her soul had been torn away. Nights were the hardest, each tick of the clock a painful reminder of her loss, her heart yearning for her faithful friend's return. For Lord, the world had morphed into a dangerous realm. Accustomed to the warmth of a human home, he now faced the harshness of the streets daily. Each moment was a struggle for survival as he scavenged for scraps, evaded cars, and fled from hostile strays. The nights were fierce as he huddled in deserted alleys, yearning for the comfort of a soft bed and gentle strokes. His once lustrous coat now hung dull and matted, and his eyes, once full of mischief, now reflected the harshness of his reality. Once greeted with affection, people now either shooed him away or disregarded his plight. The world's cruelty had marred his body and dimmed the light within his soul. Salvation came swiftly and unexpectedly when a team of volunteers from a local animal shelter discovered him. Though unfamiliar, their gentle voices and careful touch brought comfort to Lord. Weakened and weary, he allowed himself to be guided into their vehicle. Upon arrival at the shelter, he was greeted with warm blankets and a bowl of nourishment. Volunteers tenderly tended to his fur and soothed his wounded, scabbed skin. In their eyes, he saw not pity, but a glimmer of hope. Though his soul was weary, he sensed a feint of chance at life again. Despite his frail body and tired eyes, a flicker of resilience remained within him, perhaps hinting at the spirited dog he once was. Back at the shelter, a tension hung heavy in the air, pregnant with unspoken questions and alleviated hopes. Upon spotting the dog's image on the shelter's social media page, Katrina was struck by his resemblance to the puppy she had lost 2 years prior. Rushing to the shelter, she now stood face to face with Lord. Her emotions churned with a mixture of joy and uncertainty. Lord's indifferent gaze contrasted with the warm, loving looks he once bestowed upon her. There was no wagging tail, no joyful bark, no flicker of recognition in those once familiar blue eyes. He looked through her, seeing a stranger instead of the person who had shared her life and home. The volunteers observed with held breaths, yearning for a miraculous connection. Yet, as minutes passed, their optimism waned. Katrina's thoughts raced, grappling with the notion that the hardships of street life could have altered the bond they had once cherished. The possibility that this dog might not be her beloved companion weighed heavily on her heart as she departed the shelter, tears streaming down her face. However, Katrina refused to concede defeat. If this dog was Lord, he had endured trials beyond her imagination, warranting his apprehension and fatigue. Her sole beacon of hope lay in empathy and comprehension. Thus, with renewed determination, she returned to the shelter the following day. Now, Katrina wasn't merely gazing at a dog resembling Lord. She beheld an old friend who had woven himself into the fabric of her life, leaving an indelible imprint on her heart. This time, she carried a tangible token of their shared history. Approaching Lord's kennel, her steps were cautious yet brimming with hope. Kneeling to meet his gaze, she whispered their cherished phrase, "Good boy, Lord, good boy." A subtle shift rippled through Lord's demeanor. His eyes perked up, his eyes shimmering with a glimmer of recognition. It seemed as though the fog of time and adversity was lifting. With hesitant steps, Lord drew nearer to Katrina. Sniffing her hand, he emitted a soft whine laden with emotion before tenderly nuzzling into her palm, a gesture reminiscent of the trust and love they had once shared. Katrina's cheeks glistened with tears as she enveloped Lord in her embrace. The dog she had mourned, tirelessly searched for, and ultimately found was now nestled securely in her arms. Soft cheers and applause erupted throughout the shelter as the staff witnessed a reunion they had scarcely dared to dream of. It was filled with pure, happy feelings, showing how strong the connection between people and their pets is. This love had endured through relentless storms, emerging even more resilient. As Katrina gazed into Lord's eyes, she saw tears mirroring her own, cascading from those piercing blue orbs, reflecting their profound connection. Back at home, the world regained its familiar contours for Lord. Each passing day brought small triumphs, inching him closer to reclaiming the life he had once known. With the dawn of each new day, his tail wagged with increasing vigor, his eyes shimmered with renewed brightness, and the joyful echoes of his playful barks reverberated throughout the house once more. As Katrina observed this remarkable transformation unfold before her eyes, she was overcome by a profound sense of gratitude that seemed to flood her entire being. For what felt like an eternity, her home had been shrouded in a heavy blanket of silence and longing for the warmth and companionship that had once filled its walls. But now, in this moment, it was as if a dormant energy had been reignited, infusing every corner of her home with the vibrant pulse of the renewed connection. As the years unfurled, Katrina was entranced by the sight of Lord, often lost in contemplation of the remarkable odyssey that they had traversed together. It was a bond that weathered the most turbulent storms, which had once slipped from grasp only to be reclaimed, imbued with a newfound depth and significance. Their story resounded with love, strength, and the beauty of life, where hope shone bright, guiding them through the darkest times. What a lovely ending! Have you ever experienced losing a pet? How do you imagine you'd feel during a reunion like this? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the following video.